What's up? Yeah, so now let's get into this Joe Jackson thing, because a lot of people had a lot of interest in it earlier. They didn't understand where we stood on said subject, and just didn't know what direction that this would, what road this would go down. Who is Joe Jackson? Well, Joseph Jackson, is a very ingenuitive man, worked at the steel mill, and all of these things that you do know. And everybody likes to bring up the abuse on Michael Jackson because Michael Jackson was the star in the world, and just forget about the other kids. Joe was a disciplinarian. He believed in instilling discipline and instilling a belief in yourself, and you can achieve things by focusing on your goals, structuring, never giving up on your dreams. Even though he worked at the steel mill, he would moonlight and play his guitar and his bass and pick up gigs wherever he could. If they had a show, Joe would pick up his guitar, go out there and get some extra work for the night. So he's got his guitar rigged to how he likes it. That's why he tells his kids, don't mess with my guitar whenever he's out, because he doesn't want any of his gears or anything that he believes in or that he likes to be out of place, out of school, out of turn. So for Tito to mess with his guitar and play it all the time, and he was playing it for months, until his father went and did a show and realized that his guitar was not tuned right to the way that he does it. So he knows someone was messing with it. And it was actually Tito. And the boys had started a 3-man group. In the household, it'd be a trio. It was Tito, Jermaine, and Jackie. All 3 of them were a trio. So they were the first Jacksons. And they used to perform in the house, just doing songs, doing their steps. And their mother was and her, friends, they would come over. They were the first audience that they had. So Joe was just really a disciplinarian in different ways. He believed in different psyche, and getting people to believe in themselves was that was key. And to have those elements working for you is essential in a business such as this. You need someone that understands what it is to when you want to make it in this business, you need someone that advocates for you. Michael was someone out of all the kids that was different. He was very enlightened, curious, very much not just shallow, just bashful a little bit, but inquisitive. So out of all the other kids, he was different. He didn't want Michael eating candy. They had to sneak to eat candy, but Michael loved candy. Joe felt all the sugar is going to ruin his throat, his vocals, because he knew Michael could sing like an angel. Since Michael was like 4 or 5, he had a voice that was unique. And the thing about Joe is he didn't think about putting the boys on until the wife. She said, Miss Catherine said, hey, them boys, look at what your boys can do. And that's when he had a bright idea. Talent shows. My boys, we better than all of them. I'm a trainer. So he had them practicing round clock. round the clock. Now the boys, they're in their teenage years, they're teenagers. So Michael is the little kid, and so is Marlon. They're the closest of age out of all the kids is Marlon and Michael. But when it came to the discipline, Joe would always be the authority. No matter how big they were, Joseph was the authority. Nobody messes with the Jacksons. That was his thing, Respect. Stand up for yourself. Put your chin up in the air. Put your head back. If you're going to speak, speak like a man. Don't speak like a little boy. Those became the running joke or the theme. But what you would end up hearing or seeing is the narratives that come along with all of it. As Michael got older, he was defiant to Joe. Joe laid a heavy hand, spanked Michael, he did a lot of things. But mainly what he was able to do was to get the attention and galvanize everyone else to do the same thing. Is to say, hey, we all need to get on board on this thing here. So when you start seeing things that don't make sense, it's not playing out the way it's supposed to, then you start asking yourself the real questions. What are we doing here? Is this the right play? What's our direction? So for the Jacksons, it was a clear and concise moment where they had to have a come to Jesus moment, where they had to ask themselves, are we really going to make it? Or are we fooling ourselves? Or are we going to just do this for the time being? But once Michael hit the stage, he was addicted, and Joe knew it. He comes alive on stage. So Joe knew that was his platform. That was his outreach. That was the way he was going to make it. Others might not have seen it, but they should have known. Michael would be a megastar. Now, the tension started once they started having some success. Once the success started to grow, they started having, they just got to Motown, and now they got to do appearances, they got to get on airplanes, they got to, do all these requirements, things that, they just used to go to the studio, get there, when they get there, prepare, and they had to learn the actual business side. And as kids, it could be very boring. And you don't want to get on planes, all these different things that's going on. Michael, when he was younger, his father had to get him on the plane. He was defiant about not wanting to fly on planes. And he was a little kid. His father was, father knows best. Then as he got older, and now he knows the system, he knows everything, Joseph wasn't beating the kids anymore or giving them disciplined spankings. That stuff stopped. Because one, Joe was too old, the kids was too big. But when they get out of line, he was thinking about, the discipline. Pick up behind yourself. Don't be a slob. You make a mess, you clean it up. That's what you do. That's how this family operates. It was discipline. He wasn't just punishing kids to punish them. But the problem with Joe is he never sees them as his children. He sees them as his band and his members or his clients, when they need a father, they get the manager. They never got the dad. They couldn't call him dad. They had to call him Joseph. It wasn't, hey, Joseph. That was out of the frame of conversation. Peace, dude. Yes, I'm always up. Absolutely. Oh, my fault. Hey, what's going on?
Pickup, right?
You know it.
Nice guy. Can I give you barbecue, coleslaw, beans and rice on the side?
Okay. All right. That's what's up. So
I'll take care of you over there. This machine is
okay. Cool. So now, everyone that was over there, they saw that Joe was starting to interfere with the business. And as he was interfering with the business, he was messing up the process because there's so much on the table that he don't even understand. He doesn't really know how the business works.
Thank you.
Thank you. He's in over his head, and he's used to the chitlin circuit and not entertainment business. And he doesn't understand that what he's doing is absolutely hindering his boys and not really helping them anymore. He's got them to the point as far as he can get them, but he can't get them to the level that they believe that they should be at. And the reason why is because of the simple fact Joe is not one of those guys, you know. He's
You want to hold it?
he said what? Oh no, I'm good. All right, be safe, bro. So Joe had a whole different mentality. He never wanted to admit he was in over his head when he was. And he was costing the family a lot of money. So the whole time, he's trying to force a LaToya Jackson project. He was, oh, you like my boys? Wait till you see my girls. Yeah, we all can sing. We all can sing and dance. So Joe is all feeling himself. So now that he's feeling himself, he's telling himself a worldwide lie that he's not in over his head. LaToya was in a very bad record deal, but she wanted to be out there and be a star just like her brother. And even with Michael's help, they couldn't get LaToya anything. Nobody wanted to sign her because she couldn't sing. And it was like, well, maybe we could just sell the name. So we'll name the album LaToya Jackson. but she just didn't have the voice. She just didn't have the it quality. You know, Michael helped write some songs and produce for her. Just didn't work. Now, here's the problem that comes along with all of this. There's a headache stream that takes place because you got so many different entities in place. You got all of these different like ingenuities and all this nonsense that's coming into play. I was so frustrated because all these other people who were there, they never had any idea how Joe was working hard. He was really working hard trying to get, you know, the boys and everybody, but they turned into men and they didn't need Joe anymore. So Joe had to get control because Barry Gordy had a grip on the boys, all of them, and he felt that. So his whole thing is, I got to get him away from Barry Gordy. So he had a deal in place from Sony, which was Epic Records at the time, and that deal is they'll be able to produce their own records. They had their own studio, and they can get away from Motown, and because the records they were making over there, they were good, but they've outgrown it. You know, Michael Jackson is not got to be there anymore. You know, he's outgrown that. He wants to create his own music and grow. So Michael was very encouraged when Joseph said he wanted to leave. Like, we gotta leave Barry Gordy. I know you want. I know you like him. And you don't want to leave Barry Gordy. You feel loyal, but it's time to grow. So the CBS deal, that CBS Epic deal, was the way for the Jacksons to make their own music and get away. So Barry Gordy got into an argument with Joe Jackson, saying, "You didn't poison my son, man." Talking about Michael. He crying because he don't want to leave. And all this. And he coming over here, boy, that ain't your daddy, I'm your daddy. He was like, "You think that man love you? He only love you. You make money for him." So, one thing about that deal is it was correct. So the boys listened to Joseph because they really didn't have a choice. He was the manager. He had all the power. Now, if Barry Gordy wanted to be harsh, he could have. He could have been extremely harsh. I mean, extremely harsh. He could have said, "I got them under contract. I'm not letting them go. You want this, you got to do X, Y, and Z to get them back."
Join us now.
Lunch with the family just got way easier. With 3 biggie deals to choose from, everyone can get what they want. Hey, watch the grapes! There's enough to go around. Biggie deals for the whole family. Only at Lucky's.
Look at this, $5.34 a gallon. Because of Trump. That's y'all boy. That's your man's. That's your hero. Now, back to Joe. So Joe gets into it Barry Gordy did not make it harsh for the boys. He just told them, you can't take the name the Jackson 5. We own it. So whatever you call yourselves, good luck to y'all. You know, we all still family to us. We hope down the road, you know, if it don't work out, you can come back. You know, Jermaine is part of the family. He's marrying my daughter, you know, so he's married here. And those two are together. So hopefully, you know, y'all can come by and it all work out. So Jermaine is happy. He's married. After he told him, don't marry that girl. So once he defied Joseph and married her, Joseph was through with Jermaine. He didn't talk to Jermaine for a long time. Said he made his choice. So when he signed, he wasn't going to leave. Dad told him, hey, we leaving. You coming with us? You going to defy your father. And Barry Gordy told him, hey, Jermaine, I'm not going to hold you. If you want to leave, I'll let you go out of your contract. But Jermaine said, this is my chance to be the star. It's my time to shine. It's about Jermaine now. By myself. Without my brothers. It's Jermaine Jackson time. So Jermaine Jackson had freedom of reign. And they envied him, man. They were like, man, Jermaine. Like, you made it. Like, you the guy, Jermaine. And they were so, like, and they were so proud of Jermaine. Because they were like, man, he gets to make his own album and everything. Then the wheels fell off. Yeah, so Jermaine stayed. Michael got his freedom. And Michael decided within the CBS deal, the Jacksons started, they had a big budget. Michael started directing and doing his own videos, putting his vision, input, and everything. He directed a mini movie for Can You Feel It with the Jacksons, and they made some of their best music under the new deal. So some of their best music was made when they were with, once they got away from Barry Gordy, their music improved tremendously. So Michael met Quincy Jones and all of these people, and he's got the itch to want to make his own album. But there's a major problem. He wants to make his own album. He's inspired to do it. Joseph. And this is where Joe's manipulation of Michael starts to come into play. He doesn't want to lose Michael like he lost Jermaine. He already knows Michael's a superstar. He knew it since he was a kid. He knew he was the one. And was like, Michael, come on. Like, he would always manipulate him, but he never saw him as a son. He looked at him as an object or money-making tool. You know, he spoke to him like a business person like he didn't know him. And he just didn't know how to be a father. He didn't know how to be that guy. So he would manipulate Michael over and over again. Come on, Michael. We gotta do this. So at the same time, as the boys are getting older, he's starting to manipulate the girls now. Janet was small enough. So now she's starting to get Joe's attention. Because she's been singing and doing everything else. So she wants to join so much. And they was like, well, you can't join your boys. Because when the girls used to sing, Randy used to sing with the girls. Like, it was a trio. It was Rebe Jackson, LaToya, and then little Janet would join in. But Randy would sing with them. That's when, before he joined the Jacksons, he was singing with his sisters. And Rebe had Centipede and all of this. Joe was in charge of the management, got her in a bad record contract. She wasn't happy with the terms, but Joe negotiated this deal because he didn't know what he was doing. So on the Off the Wall album, the studio did come sit with Joseph, meet him at the house. That meeting did happen, but Michael was in the room also. And he did say Michael's still gonna work with his brothers. All of that, hey, you gotta be there from 9 to 5. As long as he's working with his brothers, I don't care if you want to make an album. That's better for the brain. So everybody started to do something that was for the Jacksons. The Jackson 5 was on TV shows. They was with Barry Gordy. So they had a lot of pull in the entertainment space. Michael didn't want to do all that television anymore. He felt he'd done enough of that when he was with Barry Gordy. He did a lot of these shows that he really didn't like, and they really didn't understand the music. He really didn't like talking to the press. So the limited time he had speaking with the press, the better it was. So the older he got, the more lessly he wanted to speak to the press. And he was disappointed that Off the Wall didn't win Best Album. So Joe told him, like, Michael, look, you're out there by yourself. You got the Jacksons album out and the Off the Wall album. That's too much Michael Jackson. You're going to confuse the public. You stay with your brothers. You got a good thing going on with your brothers. Now, you listen to the people here. They say they like your album with your brothers better than your own album. They listen to your album, they saying, where your brothers at? You see? Now you go out there by yourself in the world, nobody there to protect you. Your brothers ain't there. Like, you know what your brothers do? When you're not paying attention, they protect you. I'm protecting you. I got your back. And the thing was that they had a tax problem for the very first time because Joe was mismanaging money. Joe was out here bad mismanaging money. Joe was in charge of all financing. Miss Catherine didn't handle any of that. So Joe was paying for another side baby that nobody knew he had. Joe was neglecting on taxes, bills, everything. It was getting out of control. It was a spiral. Well, after those dynamics changed, everything started to do a 360 spin and go in another direction. Joe Jackson decided he was the voice of the family. If less it comes from his mouth, it doesn't mean anything. But he was bad with the money, and he was doing side deals. So the Victory Tour was a way for him to get out of a lot of debt that he owed. And then he saw Don King. He liked the way Don promote, and you know, he's like the shade tree guy. And Don King is, you know, he's a hustler. You know, that's how he gets his money up, from the boxing world. But this isn't the boxing world. So they come into this windfall, right? And so they go through this whole big windfall, this whole layout of this is how the business is ran, this is what's going to happen, and how we're going to move and proceed going forward. They're laying down all this blueprint, right? And all this shoe polish. Then all of a sudden, boom, the shoe drops. And it's like, okay, this is where we are right now. People are surprised. Don King is getting this Pepsi deal, not with Pepsi. He's working with a third-rate company, right? This third-party company. And Don is using Pepsi to get back. And he's like, Pepsi want to come back. Coca-Cola been dominating the game. We got to bounce back with this Pepsi. Because he was trying to get Pepsi to sponsor his fight, but he needed the right hook. He knew if he can get Michael Jackson, that was going to do it. And sure enough, that is what did it. Michael Jackson. Michael was the hook. Well, when Michael was the hook, everything is fine, because with Michael, that's going to be the case. They're going to keep everything a being. It's like saying that it's like using the phrase "the sky is blue, the sky is gray." You could say that. You could say that. Even though it's not the case, you could say it. It's all about who we like, right? Because here we are. Yeah. No, Don didn't understand what he was doing. That's what That's what Joe Jackson didn't know. Joe Jackson didn't know because, one, Joe Jackson just knows Don King is good at marketing and promoting, and Don's a talker. Even though Don is smart as a whip, he's a hustler. Once his main problem, and was always Don's main problem, is not really understanding the music and entertainment business. He knew the boxing side, but he didn't know the contracts he was dealing with. So Michael Jackson signed with Pepsi and did like a $5 million deal. It was the largest deal ever by any artist. You know, and that's when his father was like, see, we got Michael, and this gonna help the family. So they took $3 million out in advance to cover all the payments and everything. So when Mike got burned, they had a way to not even do the tour. So Quaker Oaks wanted to get involved. You know, they wanted to put their banner right there with Pepsi, and they were coming with big bags of money too. They got millions of dollars to spend. Don King's like, all right. And then Pepsi said, oh, no, you won't. This is an exclusive promoted by Pepsi. So they were like, what? Yep, Pepsi had exclusive rights in the marketing department. Something Don King wasn't used to seeing. They sponsored the entire tour. So they said, no way, no other sponsor will be there. We have exclusive rights. We don't care how much money that you're going to get out of it. So that messed up the revenue that was supposed to be coming in with more money. This contract limited anybody else from coming in to bring any more money to the tour. By Pepsi having exclusive rights. Don, inexperienced, didn't know anything about it. Joe Jackson didn't know anything about it. They sitting there like, oh, we got screwed. Michael was not happy that they had to make up for some of the money. They raised the prices on the tickets. Now, the ticket price, can you get this, was $30 to $25. And there was a big uproar. That's too much money for a ticket for a concert. But you gotta understand, this is 1984. So Joe Jackson and Michael's headbutting started to grow even more after this tour. Because like I told y'all before, it was his mother that really convinced him to do this for his brothers and he could be out. So the tour was going as a success in Joe's mind, but the tour was a disaster. As far as what was going on behind the scenes, Michael couldn't eat. He was dehydrated a lot of the shows. Canceled some shows because he had to rest. They couldn't make all the dates. One guy, they had guarantees to pay certain people, so he was going broke on this tour. And in some parts of other like places, it wasn't sold out. And Michael had to do all this promo with Jesse Jackson. They had to get all Sharpton in there because this is ruining his image that his managers and his management team has spent a lifetime building. You know, like Michael Jackson's not black no more. You only want to be around the white people. He wants to raise the prices up. So you got the black leaders coming out talking bad about him because mainly they all wanted a check. So Michael had to come out and actually meet with these people because he didn't want his name ruined. All because of his father. All because of Joe. So not only did his head get burned and he's in pain and he's dealing with that process, he's also Right, he's got to cover his father's butt every time. So Joe Jackson, once again, gets involved in another altercation. Because after the tour, Michael's like, that's it, I'm done. He started his own company, got away from Joe. Then all the other kids got rid of Joseph. Janet got rid of her father after her first album flopped. She fired Joseph. And then she came out with her control. Now I'm on my own. So Janet's blowing up. She got her control. She's doing it her way. And she got away from Joseph and got with Jimmy Jam and Terry and Jimmy Jam and all of them. And this is what we talk about, people. When we mention doing things the right way rather than the wrong way. This is what it looks like. So Joe Jackson decided he was going to go into making other bands, start working with other artists, and then manipulate his way into deals where people would give Joe Jackson money. The deal would fall short. Then Joe Jackson would be like, I'll get you. Promising them Michael Jackson's going to show up. And using Michael's name for endorsements. There was one time he went to go see the family because he wasn't even living at the house anymore. For all his infidelities and cheating, Joseph decided to leave the house and go do his own thing. Then he comes in with some endorsement thing. He comes over there, wants to meet his kids, and where my boy, where my family. See, this is what I'm about, the Jacksons. Look at that, we got our grandbabies in here, everything's going good. And everybody's like, uh-oh, he wants something. Then he pulls some like Japanese or Korean thing out of a bag. And was like, yeah, this is the new thing I got right here. And he was like, oh, let's take a picture together. Come on, everybody. Yeah, let's get in there. Where Michael? Come on, Michael, get in. Michael is like, no, I don't want to, no. So Michael refused to take a picture with him. But he really wanted that picture with Michael. And then while he's trying to take a picture with Michael, he's trying to hold up this Korean thing. Like he's trying to find a way to manipulate to put Michael into this Korean thing. And he was like, what's that? He's like, no, I'm not going to be in a picture with that. I don't know what that is. No, I can't do it, mother. So Michael leaves. He doesn't want any parts of it. So he just leaves. And then she told Joseph, like, why can't you just, for once in your life, be a father? Be them kids' father. So then he tries to guilt Michael Oh, they turning on him. Then he'll call. Couldn't reach Michael. And Mike will say, talk to your father. He's still your father. You don't have to do what he say, but at least give him the respect. Answer his call. So Michael got him on the phone. Well, he got Michael on the phone. And he was, Michael, I need to borrow $500,000. It's like $500,000 for what? What you need $500,000 for, Joseph? Oh, I got this investment going on. Don't worry, I'm gonna send over a contract and everything, saying I'm gonna pay you back and everything. So Joseph would sign on these contracts knowing he's not paying back a dime. There's been plenty of times throughout his entire life, Michael has paid for his expenses, his livings. He had sold all his royalties for his Jacksons. So Joe continued to try to con record labels to giving him deals as he's doing partnerships with other shady people in the business. Their relationship deteriorated, but he always kept the respect of him being his father. And when they came and arrested him, and he went to trial, his father was right there. And that was one of the very few times they've been tight. So, anyway, that's what really happened. I know it's late. I did this pretty late, but I was watching the game. So, I'm going to get caught up. I got to open the Patreon, and I'm out.